Hi, Devin.
Hello, hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm so excited to be doing this with you right now.
I'm so excited you're here. So I'm gonna jump in by having you introduce yourself with your pronouns first. Anything you want us to know in this moment.
Absolutely. My name is Devin Wesley, he, him, and I'm a Los Angeles based fine artist. I specialize in black and white acrylic and oil portraits of, various humans in different situations, trying to tap into, you know, every natural human emotional thing that we all experience, the things that connect us and make us more common than a lot of people think that we are.
Those are your work behind you, right?
Yes, yes.
The people listening, you can't see it, but it's fucking stunning.
Yeah, this
So
is this is a piece I just finished. I did a project with Adobe that went live last week. It was a
amazing.
me and a handful of amazing black creators. It was really cool to be a part of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna jump in by one. You're the first fine artist that we've had on the show, which is very
Yes.
exciting. There've
Setting
been
the
a
tone.
Yes, honey. There've been a lot of actors, a lot of performers, had an activist or two, but you're our first fine artist, and I'm very excited.
I love that.
Okay, so here's the little black folks question of the day. Yeah. So I want to know who is the most influential black character growing up? Who was like the black character growing up that you were like, oh yes, this I love this character.
Okay, I have to mention one, but I don't think that it's this person.
Okay.
When I was a child, I watched Sister Act on repeat.
Of course, one or
Whoop,
two.
both, but
Absolutely.
like
We
Whoopi
are we are big
Goldberg.
fans of Sister Act. Yes.
Black character. Oh my gosh, that's a really good question.
Yeah. Thank you.
I don't know why it's taking me so long. I feel like as I'm
Well,
trying to so my thing is I grew up a massive superhero fan.
okay.
Comic books. Okay, so I want to say Storm. Storm from X-Men.
Yes.
Storm. It took me a while to think because a lot of what I consumed as a child, unfortunately, there weren't that much representation
Yeah.
of black. So like I grew up from the age of like 5 watching horror movies.
You like scary movies. I
This is like my season. My birthday's next Friday. Halloween is tomorrow. Like
Yay.
I love Halloween's my favorite holiday.
I am so happy for your joy. And at the same time, I'm like, I can't
No,
even. No, my husband loves scary movies and I don't. And he's always like, just watch it. I'm like, honey, you're not going to be able to hold me in my dreams. Do you know what I'm
yeah,
saying? My dreams are going to be wild and I'm by myself in my dreams. And I
but
just
he's right
can't.
there. It's like you wake up
Oh
from a
my
jolt.
God.
He's got you.
And is that the appeal of scary movies that the people like the adrenaline rush? Is that what is the appeal for scary movies to you? To me, it shakes my core. So what is
I
it for
think
you?
I think it I think honestly I think it varies based on the conversations that I've had. For me, it's because I started so young and I did it with my parents, so it's very nostalgic.
Oh, okay.
Um, and I do think that there's something interesting about like the drama and the craziness of it all. But I do know a lot of people that do like it for a nice little scare to just kind of like a roller coaster a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so I know that Storm's your favorite character, and I want to talk about her in a second. But is there a black like horror villain or hero or whatever that you like?
Blade was amazing also.
Dope.
Yeah, Blade was
Okay.
amazing. Um, yeah, I mean, just like those, because that's what I really like grew up running. Unfortunately, we didn't have. I mean, of course, we had our moments, to the token in a lot of horror movies,
Sure.
but it's really not until recently where we're seeing us kind of jump in and own that space, thanks to people
Yeah,
like Jordan Peele, the creators of
absolutely.
Lovecraft, which I could talk
We
your
could
ear
we
off.
could really jump into that if you
So
wanted
you
to.
don't like horror, but you watch Lovecraft because
So I Go ahead. No, you tell me.
people have told me that they won't watch Lovecraft because it's too scary, and that upsets me because I feel like it is just now that we are starting to get like representation in these beautiful ways in these
Yes.
type of genres. So I think we kind of have to support because
Yes, I agree with you. I was not gonna watch it because I was afraid it was going to be too scary. I was like so happy for these Black people on this billboard. And I was like, yes, get it, honey. But I was like, I
Yeah.
will not put myself through that type of torture and emotional roller coaster. But then we were like, let's just do it. And honestly, it wasn't that scary. The first episode to me was the scariest, just
Hmm.
because of the, not to give anything away, but the jump scares of the bigger, monsters or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I was fine, but I loved it because I thought it was less horror to me and more sci-fi. Is that crazy?
I think every episode took on a different genre. I do think that there was
Yes.
more horror focused episodes, and then there were some that felt like Raiders of the Lost Ark. There's some that
Yes.
felt like I was watching Star Wars film. Like it just was kind of all over the place in that sense. But there were moments that I'm like, this feels really intense, like kind of horror vibes.
Yeah. But it was beautiful because as you just kind of mentioned, we aren't often in that space. And so
Hmm.
that was what kind of made it not that's not what made it watchable. It was brilliantly written and acted and produced and all that. That's what made it fucking watchable. But also just like the appeal of like, oh, I've never seen us in these spaces. I've never seen characters like this that look like us. That, I mean,
Hmm.
the episode with Anjanou Ellis where she goes through the thing, and I won't give anything away, but I like wept. I like, it was just like
It's
anyways.
there are lots of tears. Like if Halloween was happening this year and wasn't canceled, for me at least, I would
Yeah.
definitely figure out a way to be Hippolyta. Because when I
Yes.
tell you,
Yes. Everybody like that, and that to me is also like a superhero. Like
yeah, oh
that's
my gosh,
a black mother. I mean,
yeah,
black women are just superheroes. I know that they
hmm,
don't get the credit that they don't ever get the credit that they deserve for that, or the space, which I loved, the space to be vulnerable.
hmm,
You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that character wasn't just strong, right?
yeah.
That character had dimensions inside of her strength,
But
chinks
what
in
I,
her armor. Good.
yeah, what I loved about her was that you were seeing someone that was. I don't feel like you often see us in ways that where we are like. She was like I don't want the spoiler. Like she was really into science and she was super super educated in that space, and it was something that I had never seen before, and it was super refreshing. But what
Yeah.
I also loved about the show was the historical nods and the like educational piece of it. Like there was a whole
Yes.
episode dedicated to Emmett Till, which is it's so
Yes.
powerful.
So powerful. Listen, we're doing a free promo for Lovecraft Country. So let me bring him back to Storm.
Yes.
So what was it about Storm that like caught your attention?
So I read the comics
Mhm.
before the films actually came out, and just seeing that there was this black, strong character, set aside her dope ass powers. Like
Yeah.
she was just this African, strong, prideful person that was essentially one of the leaders.
Yeah.
And in a predominantly white space. So I do think subconsciously I resonated with that because of where I grew up. I grew up in Southern California, Orange County. I was one of like 7 Black people at my high school of a few
Ooh.
thousand.
Yeah.
So I think just naturally seeing her conquer that space and just be proud in herself, I think subconsciously I was just drawn to that.
I love that. I remember the first time my cousins, I'm an only child, but I have a lot of older cousins, and they loved X-Men. And so I would see the comics. Was never into, I got into superheroes in like the last 3 years.
Hmm.
So I'm very late. But I do remember the first time that I saw Storm in one of their comics and being drawn to her. And I think it was this like, I'm so used to seeing white people in animation and white characters. And so
Hmm.
to see her, that was just like, what? And I didn't know. I mean, you're young, so you don't know
Yeah.
what you're connecting to or why you're connecting to it. But um, I do remember that moment of seeing her for the first time and being like, holy shit, who the fuck is this? Which is probably honestly why I saw the X-Men movie.
Well, it's
Was
also it's why is it always so jarring when we see us in spaces that we're not
uh
used to? So
wow,
I mean
that's a question.
that's a whole other thing. But
That's a
I
question.
completely agree with your sentiments regarding that, and I think Halle Berry did an amazing job at kind of representing the strength.
Yeah.
And I have hope that they're gonna continue the story, and I'm curious to see who they'll have play it.
Who do
I
you
just
want to play it? Who do you want to play it?
I'm an awful fan right now because I'm obsessed with her. But the lead in I May Destroy You, like I'm so
Michaela Cole.
yes,
Oh,
yes, 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 yes,
that would
yes.
be
She would kill it.
oof.
She would kill it.
Make that movie. Yes, I'm here for that. That storm, I am here for.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to tell you my most influential
Please.
character, who it turns out is black, but the time was purple for me. It was Barney. Barney
Yeah.
was
Barney's black?
Barney was played by a black dude. I forget his name. Judith, will you look up Barney's name? The actor who plays that. It's a black dude, which I didn't
Wow.
know. Yeah, I
You
mean,
learn something new every day.
we are everywhere. We are everywhere. But
Say it louder.
Barney was like, this is gonna sound because I understand it's Barney, but like Barney was everything for me. Like that purple. I had the purple dinosaur, the purple stuffed animal. I watched it religiously. Like this is pre-Oprah, pre-Beyonce, like pre-Brandy Barney.
Barney.
Oh, that was my I don't
Okay.
David Joyner's the actor who played Barney.
David Joyner.
Yes, and he's black, right, Judith? I'm not making that up. There was like a whole BuzzFeed thing like a year or two ago that was like Barney's black. But and I think I was drawn to Barney because I had an obsession with his level of empathy,
Hmm.
which makes sense for like what my life has turned into. I think I knew at a young age that I was an outcast. I think I knew at a young age that I didn't fit in and that I wasn't quite like everyone, which again now makes sense. I'm non-binary, I'm queer, I'm out, all that stuff. And there was a level of an absurd level of acceptance that
Hmm.
Barney exuded, right? Like that whole show was about inclusion and loving each other and whatever. And so
Yeah.
there was a safety that I think my young queer black self felt watching it. And I didn't understand what that was, but like I liked him like deep into my like second grade until the kids made fun of my lunchbox. I had a Barney lunchbox that I loved.
I feel like
And
I did too. That
you
sounds,
better
I
have
feel like you just pulled something out of my like
your
subconscious.
subconscious. Yes. I don't know if you have the same one. It was a purple lunchbox. Remember the hard plastic lunchboxes?
Yes. I
Yes.
don't
It
know
was
why that is. I'm
yes.
gonna call my mom as soon as
Call your
I'm.
mom and be like, did I have one? This one was purple and it had Barney and it had Baby Bop. Do you remember the green dinosaur, Baby Bop?
Yes,
His
baby
like
Bob.
friend. And I think PJ was the yellow one. I think he was in there too, but they were like, I think Baby Bob is on the swing and Bart and it brought me so much joy. And in first grade, everyone loved my Barney lunchbox. And then in second grade, they dragged me for filth, bitch. For filth. These
They
motherfuckers
said you are
dragged
too
me.
old for this Barney
I
box.
said, but I'm 7. And they were like, no. The other 7 years were like, we don't do that no more. Come on now. Power Rangers, bitch. So I found, because it's a sticker. So like I pulled the sticker off and had this, purple lunchbox with the remnants of
I'm gonna
Barney.
find you I'm gonna find you this box. I'm gonna find you this lunchbox.
If you listen, I will frame it. I will absolutely. Can you frame a box? You can frame a box, or you can hang it up. You can do something
Like a shadow box. We'll figure it
like
out.
a shadow box. We'll figure
Yeah,
it out.
yeah.
I will put that shit absolutely, please.
I
Okay,
got you.
now I'm gonna ask you the big black folks question. You ready?
Ooh, yeah, let's do
All
it.
right, all right, all right. The big black folks question today is: when or what was the moment you intentionally started valuing your blackness?
I'm so happy that that's my big black question.
Yeah.
I feel like that is like my whole purpose and my whole soul right now. Like I want to
Yes.
scream this answer to the heavens. Honestly, this year.
Okay. Tell me about it. Do you remember the
And
moment?
it sounds crazy because I'm
Nope.
turning 27 next week. But for me, honestly, it's me accepting who I am as a gay man, but mainly as a black man, has been a journey.
Yeah.
And it's so fascinating. I felt so isolated and alone for a lot of my life, only to grow up and realize that a lot of people actually had a similar experience to me. So growing up in Southern Orange County, I was one of 7 Black people in my high school. Like, I didn't really have any Black friends. The main Black people that I was around were my family. And when I was around Black people, it had gone to the point where I slightly felt judged or uncomfortable because of the things that you hear growing up, like, oh, you talk white, oh, you act white, you don't talk like a Black guy. Like, there's little microaggressions that are so not okay, but I don't think people realize like the damage that those things cause. Which honestly, like I was mentioning it to you earlier, like has really affected me in my adult life and has stopped me from feeling super confident about speaking in settings like this. So I came into this year like, you gotta work through that. Like, that's ridiculous. That's a narrative that you're playing in your head based on what someone told you years ago. But I would say I left Orange County. A lot of people don't know, but I was a competitive track and field athlete. I had a full ride to go to school up in Fresno. I was training for the Olympics.
Come on, that explains the body. Body, yaddy, yaddy. Come on, track.
Got hurt, so that I had to let that dream go. But I think that was such a great experience to get out of everything that was familiar to me, and kind of put me in a diverse area, because, you know, my team was all Black. It felt scary at first, but it was honestly the best experience. So I left that and I felt like I'd gotten closer to understanding what it meant to be Black. But honestly, I don't feel like I fully understood what it means, the weight of being Black, until this year. And like truly loving that and me and like everything about it. Like, we are so layered, we are so deep. There's so many attributes to being Black that I just didn't fully appreciate before. And I think just with everything that's happened in the world and like making a choice to look at myself in a different way, it just made all the difference. And I can't imagine not accepting that part of myself. Like, it's everything. Like, as an artist, as I create, like, my perspective has been built around my my experience as a Black man. So yeah, honestly, I would say I've understood the full depths of being Black and accepting it, like this year.
What was the light bulb moment? Or like, I'm okay, so I will say that I am sure that it's a series of puzzle pieces that came together for that thing, but was there like one like final piece? Like, what was that final moment that was like, oh, this is the kind of the intentional moment where you were like, oh, I have to value this thing, which is my Blackness?
Honestly, I think and let me step back a little bit. I don't want to say it was like exactly this year. I think, to your point, it was like a steady stream of things and it all connected. But I do think, like, towards the end of last year, like, I grew this really strong, close-knit group of, you know, like, Black female friends, which I've also never had. And just to hear from them and from my other Black friends, they had similar experiences to me growing up, feeling like they were judged for being the only Black person in the room, that they spoke a different way, that they felt kind of ostracized from the rest of, you know, that group. Like, it really helped me to feel accepted and to feel like there wasn't anything wrong with me, like I was normal. Which sounds awful, but that's just my experience. So I would say the light bulb for me was, you know, just realizing that I wasn't the only one with that story, with that narrative, you know, and that there's not one way to be Black.
Say it again.
Even though, unfortunately, there's so many people that are not Black that sometimes think that there is, or think that there should be one way to speak or communicate or express yourself, or music that you like.
They want to put us in a box.
And and that's why, like, it's so important that we have representation, because there's so many different facets to us. Like, and it doesn't take away from our Blackness. And so I think for me, it was accepting the fact that I am all of these things that make up Devin Wesley, but I'm still a Black man, and I'm still a strong and amazing Black man. And those things
Yes.
don't take away from that.
Yes. There's not one way to be Black. I mean, that's the point of this fucking show, is that Black people are not a monolith. But
Yeah.
in those spaces, especially those white spaces, you do feel like, and I speak from my experience, like you are, um, you've been cast in a role. You've been
Hmm.
cast to play whatever their idea of Blackness is. And when you don't fit into that, and then the same is true, like when you then, whatever your experiences are growing up, and then you go into a predominantly Black space, if you don't fit whatever anyone thinks the narrative of a Black person is,
Yeah.
it challenges your sense of identity, because you're like, wait, I know that I'm Black, but I'm not quote unquote performing Blackness to
Hmm.
these white people's liking or to these Black people's liking.
Yep.
And I feel like queer Black people definitely feel that too, because there's I, I'm going to make I love making gross generalizations on this show, but I like to say it so that people know that I know that there's nuances.
Yep.
But for queer Black men, or those of us who are in male presenting bodies, when we are more effeminate,
Hmm.
that challenges what people think Blackness is, because Blackness, especially for Black men or male presenting, is so mask related. And if you're
Yep.
not masculine, then you are not, it negates your Blackness immediately to the community, if you will.
For sure. So I think there's that added layer of struggling with your identity as a Black man, feeling kind of torn between both worlds, but also like as a queer man, you're still trying, like your young years are so formative in every aspect and every sense
Yes.
of the word. So when you're still trying to figure out what that means, and white men are telling you you're attracted for a Black guy, I don't really like Black guys,
Woo!
like that has that has such a weight on like how you move through the rest of your life. But
Yes.
I think for me, coming from an athletic background, I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. My
Hmm.
story was a lot different before I started running track in high school. That changed everything. It was like I was the jock, I was homecoming king, I was all of these things because I, to your point, fit into a box that was comfortable for them. I was
Yes.
the masculine, passing man, and I was
Yeah.
the best in my field, so no one could really say anything to me. But
Yeah.
once I lost that, I think track was done for me before it was actually done, if that
Mm.
makes sense. But
Oh, it makes perfect sense.
I think I held on to it for so long because that was what defined me, and that's what made me acceptable and subconsciously in my mind. So once I
Mm.
lost that, I had a massive identity crisis. I'm like, who am I? And like at this time, I just wasn't, my art wasn't in the forefront like it is
Hmm.
today. And it just, I had to like really start over. Like I do believe in the theory of the phoenix, like you got to burn all the way down just to rebuild. And that's kind of what I went through.
Yeah. Woof. You talking about the moment that you valued your Blackness, and your friends, that close knit of Black women who
Yeah.
kind of supported that,
Hmm.
resonates for me, because um, I like to say that my reckoning with my queerness, my reckoning with my Blackness, and my reckoning with my Black queerness are three very different things and three very
Totally.
different moments. So if
Totally.
we're just talking about Blackness, it happened in college, and I tell the story a lot about, being 21 and or less, maybe 20, in therapy for the first time, and saying to my therapist, and I'm sorry for those listening who've heard the story a million times, saying to my therapist after a breakup that no matter how attractive I might be considered or handsome I might be, I'll never be as attractive as a white man. And
Hmm.
this white woman, looking at me horrified. And that was like my awakening about, like, oh, there's a lot of self-hate that I've been um, boiling in, that I've been cooking and stewing in for the last 20
Hmm.
years. And so what helped me get to a love of my Blackness were the Black friends that I had cultivated in college. We used to do this thing, and forgive me to my friends for telling this story, I won't say your names. We used to do Black sleepovers.
Yes.
And these Black sleepovers changed my fucking life. I mean, being 20, 21, 22, and doing sleepovers is already like fabulous. But they were specifically, we called them Black sleepovers, and it was like 10 or 12 of us. And the reason for anyone, I have to tell you why 12 of us could fit into a house. So I was in a relationship with somebody who lived in a penthouse. And so I lived in a penthouse for a little while. That was my
Yes.
yes, honey.
Okay.
She lived in a penthouse. So when my partner at the time would like go out of town or whatever, I
Mhm.
would have Black sleepovers at my place. And we've done them a couple other places. And so like 12 of us would like get together and we would bring food and we would drink and we would eat. And it
Mhm.
would always start the first couple hours of like a lot of laughing and dancing. And then, you know, around midnight is when like the tears would start, right? Where the
Yeah.
opening up would happen, where we would share our experiences. And because all of us went to NYU, which NYU is such a white
Mhm.
space. And so to be a person of color in NYU, like you're just often isolated.
Yeah.
So for us to come together, we shared that similar experience of like always having to code switch, not being Black enough,
Mhm.
not fitting with the white people, like not fitting in with, you know, Black people from our neighborhood, or maybe we did, and the
Mhm.
complications of that. But it was in the communing with one another that I start to um, value my Blackness,
Mhm.
because with 11 other people beside me, all of us different, it's like, oh yeah, I'm not going to say that she's not Black or that
Mhm.
he's not Black or that that person, like we're all Black and we all share this experience and this lineage. And yeah, there was just that feeling of not being alone, I
Yeah.
think, is what changed everything. Go ahead.
I completely agree with your sentiments, and I would like to say though, I don't think I want to be clear that I don't think there was no self hate. Like I had accepted and loved myself for being Black
Oh, sure.
for a long time, but I don't think, to your point, I understood the importance of having like a close group of people in your circle that understand your experience. Like I
Yes.
didn't understand the weight of that until very recent. Um, it's such a disarming feeling when you can just be in a group of people and you don't have to explain yourself, and like they just know
Yes.
exactly what it is.
1,000%.
And I think moving from that feeling, I was like, wow, like this is incredible. Like
Yes.
it to your point, it changed everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I apologize. I did not think that you were saying that you had self-hate. I was just
You
saying that
good
I
guy.
had
No, no,
self-hate.
no, no, no. Just
Yes.
want to
Yeah, yeah.
clarify for the
Absolutely.
people.
No, 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 no. Everyone's journey is different. My
Yeah,
journey
yeah.
was, I realized that I was in self-hate. And so there was a different reckoning, but I know that's not what you were saying.
No, yeah,
But
yeah.
the idea that like it's the community that kind of, it's that camaraderie,
Oh
right?
my gosh.
Having that camaraderie that really um gives you some footing, some foundation, some grounding,
Because
right?
I never really had that experience up until recently with Black men, if that
Mm,
makes sense. Like
yes,
my father and I have an interesting relationship in terms of we're super close, but regarding me being a gay man, we don't really go there quite yet.
sure.
Um, but I think that's kind of affected the ways that I move into relation or deal with relationships with other Black men as friends.
Hmm.
And that has really changed over the past few years. Like I have like one of my best friends, Jason. You probably know him, Jason Sky, amazing stylist in LA. It's
Oh, that's
really just
great.
like helped me to shape like who I am and just like how I see myself.
Yeah,
It's so important. But like I just being an athlete, like I was around a lot of like hetero Black
sure.
men who just like, and then I felt like I was again code switching. I was having to put on some sort of front and not be able to be my full self.
Yeah, I didn't get like, I didn't have like my first like close Black male friends until college,
Hmm.
when I met Black queer men.
Hmm.
Because other than like my cousins, I was always so uncomfortable. I was just so, that's not completely true. I did have like, this is what happened when I was younger, like before puberty, I had a couple Black male friends who were very, very close to me. We lived in the same block. They were like my best friends. And then puberty kind of hits, and there's an acknowledgement of queerness, right? The fag could not be said more, right?
Right.
There's an awareness of masculinity. And that's where like I started to like lose those relationships,
Hmm.
because by association, like no one wanted to be associated, ugh, I've never said this. This is very painful. Like no one wanted to be associated with me because I didn't even know I was gay, but like I was exhibiting what would be gay attributes. And so I lost my relationship with a lot of the Black men, and my father's never
Mhm.
been around. And so then I realized in college that I had like no Black male friends.
Yeah.
And that was kind of devastating and rooted in, the absence of my father, but also kind of the betrayal of those friendships from when I was younger. And I had to relearn how to trust Black men
Yeah.
specifically, which was also like a learning how to trust myself
Hmm.
as well.
Hmm.
It was a mirroring effect,
Hmm.
like this fear of being a Black men or Black male presenting represented abandonment.
Yeah.
And so I never could fully plug into those relationships because I was always afraid of being
Hmm.
left, essentially. And so,
It's
go ahead.
so beautiful. I was just gonna thank you for
Oh,
sharing.
thank you. Um, yeah, I don't know why I share. You're
It's
very easy to talk to, Devin.
it's oh, thank you so much. I mean, this your voice is serenading me, so I feel like I have to like compete. But it's
Not at
so
all.
interesting. And I think as an artist, that is what inspires me the most is just understanding that our minds are so complex as humans, and like the things that we intake subconsciously really
Mm,
affect everything that we do and how we see ourselves and how we see the world around us. It's crucial. Like
yeah,
those first few years of your life, like your younger years when you think that things like you're a sponge and you take everything in. And if you're not doing the work to identify what those triggers are, what those things are that make you have these negative thoughts of yourself or other people, like you are not going to be at your full potential.
yeah. I love that you said that doing the work. We had a guest, Aisha D, who is a phenomenal actress. And we were talking about, how in this racial reckoning, and I hate every time I say it, it like loses its luster. It's like, what the fuck is a racial reckoning and awakening? Whatever. For lack of a better term, this racial racial reckoning where we're asking white people and non-black people to like do their fucking work, which is to like learn about racism and bigotry and white supremacy and how you are
Hmm.
a participant in it. But at
Hmm.
the same time, like, what is the work for us as Black people? What is our work, right? Like,
Hmm.
and I think to your point, it's the introspection, right? It's
Yeah,
the being willing to examine what are the things that we have absorbed as sponges that are impacting how we are showing up for ourselves or not showing up for ourselves.
absolutely. Because if you so often, so many of us walk into corporate or 9 to 5 spaces and don't feel like we can be our full selves.
Yes.
And I feel like hopefully we're moving in a time where that is going to change, where these companies and where you work has to accept you for who you are and shouldn't make you feel like you can't have a certain hairstyle as a Black woman, or you can't dress in a way, you can't speak a certain way. But we have to unlearn those things that we've like our
Yeah.
parent like the generations previous to us always taught us, like you have to dress like this, you have to look like this, you have to be like this in white spaces so you get through the door.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
how do we, and I'm not saying that those were wrong teachings or that there's not any truth to that, but I think identifying it, and I don't know the fucking answer. I mean, it's all so complex.
I think what you're saying though, because it's like there's not a lack in truth of like, listen, if you had it like, if we're talking about like early 90s, my mother had always had locks, so long, natural locks. And there was a choice that she made when she did that, but also understood the impact it made on her career, right?
Yeah.
And she understood that there were just things that she was going to give up. And I
Hmm.
think that which sucks and shouldn't be the case, and we should dismantle the system so that's not the case. But I think the introspection is like, so that you can make the choice. So
Hmm.
not just doing it,
Hmm.
but it's like, you know what? Like if I'm gonna choose to wear my hair this way, I'm making an informed choice.
Of
And
course.
I am a participant. Hmm, I'm gonna say it. I don't know how much I believe it, but let me say it. I'm a participant in the game. as opposed to like the game playing me. Do
For
you know what
sure.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
I am going to play the game,
Mhm.
like, and I'm gonna play the
To
system
get what, to get where I want to
to
get,
get
to
where
get
I
what
want
I
to get.
want. I know what I need to do to a
Yes.
certain degree, but I feel like to your point, it's like we shouldn't have to do that.
Yes, we shouldn't have to do that. I mean, that's like that. I was saying that, like, uh,
I hear
this.
you though.
Yes, these conversations are hard because I'm realizing more and more how much of it is in this like middle ground where it's like these two things get to be true, and that kind of sucks. Where it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's true that you might have to play the game a certain way to get ahead, but also it's true that you shouldn't have to do that. And so, like,
Mhm.
how do you sit in both of those truths,
Yeah.
and find your own whatever works for you,
Yeah.
Devin, whatever works for me, Brandon. Um, that's difficult. And that's the work,
That's the work.
right?
That's the work.
I don't know.
When was the moment in your life when you knew that you wanted to kind of break out of this, masculine, the expectations of being
Ooh.
a Black man and kind of embrace more of your queerness?
When I was 20, when I had just graduated NYU, I joined a musical sketch comedy group called
Yes,
Political
musical
Subversity.
sketch.
Yes, honey, called Political Subversities. And we would do a show in New York at the Pitt People's Improv Theater every Saturday. And what was really fucking impressive about it, which I would never do now because like I'm tired, but at 22, I had the fucking energy. We would do 40 new sketches and songs a week about what was going on in the world, which meant that we were writing, composing, rehearsing, and performing like a new show every fucking week, which is
A
fucking
lot.
bananas.
It's a lot.
And in that show, I created a character called, his name is Latrell Levine LeBron Lucius Lacrosse Latavia Lactate Jackson. And Latrell,
Period.
who at the time I didn't have the words non-binary, at the time drag was not in the zeitgeist in the way that it is right now. So it was just like this very femme. I was describing him as a femme Black man who would deliver his take on something newsworthy. And the whole point was that he talked in a way that I've been taught not to speak, which
Hmm.
would be considered quote unquote hood or ghetto. But if you listen to what the fuck he was saying, he was fucking brilliant. You know what I'm
He was
saying? Like
speaking that
he
truth.
was speaking the truth. And that was inspired because I was also working at these schools in like Harlem and Brooklyn, Bronxville, like, deep out in Bronxville, it's fucking deep in Brooklyn. And my kids were so fucking brilliant, but they were also being written off
Mhm.
because of where they lived or because of how they spoke or because of how they dressed. And so that was where that character came from. But that character allowed me to explore the other end of my femininity,
Mhm.
like just to this extreme extent. And then I did my own shows doing that, and still have performed Latrell, and I'm working on a new show for next year. But it allowed me to explore my femininity safely in a way,
I love
even though
that
it was public because I was doing it on stage. There was a safety to like, this is a character.
because you could escape from that. You could dive
Yes.
into it when you wanted to, come in and out of it.
Yes, but to my friends' point, they were like, "That's just you when you're drunk." And
Yeah.
it's like, accurate. You don't need to drag me like that, but accurate. Stop it. Rude. But yeah, I mean, like that was so. There was years and years of doing that show and that character, and then finally being like, "Oh no, this is me. I am like I am this person." But there are times when I'm more femme and times when I'm more it's this thing of like,
Mhm.
why do I have to be one
Conform.
way?
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. For
like
sure.
I'm all of this. I'm extremely femme sometimes I'm mass, sometimes I wear pink and my nails are done, and sometimes I'm in my Timbs with a fitted hat. Like it's like that's
Period.
all me.
We should be able to be everything we want to
Yes.
be. So it honestly has been a journey for me, and it's still a journey for me. I feel like I realize that I still have these little stigmas that I was still working through this year. Like I had this weird stigma that if I watched Drag Race. Like that made me
Mm,
too gay. And honestly, like
mm.
I'm obsessed now. The
Yes.
past 2 seasons are like the ones like I really started with. And it's funny because, spoiler for anyone who hasn't watched it, the winner was Black on
Mm-hmm.
season 12, and the
Ugh.
riots in downtown happened that same night. It was crazy.
Wow.
It was crazy. So just seeing kind of like the excitement that I had for someone that was Black, that was amazing to win. And then to see kind of like the hate and backlash that they were receiving online right after, because they felt like her white counterpart should have won.
Ugh.
To then people like breaking and shattering all the businesses around me was, it's
A
been
lot. That's
an interesting year.
interesting is
I try to use not super negative adjectives to describe this year.
no, I love that because interesting, I think is actually the perfect way to describe it, because I think again this like middle area where people are having some shitty fucking moments, and
Yeah,
also people are having some like brilliant epiphanies
for
as
sure.
well, and some like, I don't know, for everything that's going back, there's some forward, I don't know, there's all this stuff that's coexisting, so
It's
interesting
hard.
feels right.
It's hard because I don't ever like, there's so many experiences that people are going through right now, losing jobs and
Of
losing
course.
loved ones, that
Yes.
you can't talk out of that. There's nothing really positive that you can say
Mhm.
to make up for that. But
Right.
I will say that there has been positive, in my opinion, from this year. We are collectively waking up to a lot of things that I think even Black people, if I'm honest, I think we've been dealing with stuff for so long, microaggressions for so long, that we were just letting them slide.
Yes. My biggest hope for Black people uh, is mental health, like
Yeah.
awareness of mental health. And that's like the biggest thing for me that's come out of this year is like, oh, I didn't realize, and I've used this term every fucking week, which is like the mental aerobics of being Black. And,
Oh,
and I didn't realize how much, and for our track star, the mental Olympics, right? Like it's like the work that you have to do to navigate feels just
we need it the most. We need the resources the
the
most.
most.
And we get them the least. That's the gag of it all,
That
Brendan.
is truly like, it's insane.
The amount, but I think kind of my creative artist experience or perspective on that is, I find so much inspiration in us surviving constantly through our adversity. We've done
Yeah.
it through centuries and through decades and decades. And I know that this is like such an awful and such a sad and scary time, but it makes me feel good because I already know that we have it innate to get through it,
Yeah.
because we've gotten through this and worse before. So
Yeah.
I find hope in this for my people. If that
Absolutely. Well, this is my last question for you then. What is your hope for yourself in 2021?
continued spiritual and mental growth, under continuing to understand the depths of who Devin Wesley is, so that
Mm,
I can better communicate that through my art. I think it's a blessing, creatives like us. I do think in times like this, it's our job to shed light and, change the narrative. And I think
mm,
you've done that with this amazing podcast. And I try to do that with my art. And then, the creators of Lovecraft and Jordan Peele, all these people are using their strengths to really push us forward.
yeah.
And I just want to continue to dive into who I am so that I can continue to do that as well.
Yeah. I want to say before I let you go that you are doing it. And I also want to just acknowledge the brilliance of your artistry. Because even just like going on your Instagram is emotional for me, because I realize, my mother and my grandmother did a very good job of making sure that there were Black images in our home, like just making sure that I saw, like the Last Supper was an all Black Last Supper. And in my current home, there are lots of Black people and Black artists and imageries on the wall. And it makes it it's so important to be able to see ourselves in such a beautiful, profound, sacred way. And whenever I see your art, I see us. Oh, she's not gonna cry. What's she
Oh.
crying about? Sorry. I see us. I see the way you hold us um, with such reverence in your artistry. The way that you see us. I feel it in your work. That's why I think your work is so important and why I'm so excited to talk to you. Because images like yours and artwork like yours does have the power of changing someone's perception of themselves. And that is so just utterly important in a world where the messaging is so fucked up for us as Black people, and the representation is so minimal. To have someone like yourself creating the work that you're creating, and knowing that, you know, some little person or some older person can see it and see themselves and feel themselves and look up to it. It's that Storm moment. It's that moment of seeing Storm in the magazine and being like, oh, there I am, or
Yeah.
like, who's that, or like, could I be that? I feel the superhero, that superhero energy in your work, and so I'm just so happy I got the chance to talk to you, and I'm a fan.
I appreciate that. Yes, I'm a fan too. Well,
Yes.
I appreciate that more than you know, honestly. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
And that just, it's those small little things, you saying that, it's a reminder that I'm doing the right thing and that
absolutely.
my message is being conveyed. And it's
Yes,
not just me seeing it, and other people can see it too. So
absolutely. We see it and we feel it. We feel it so hard.
thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you for being here, Devin. I'll talk to you soon.
I'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
Bye.